Hi. Today we're going to talk about why your employees frustrate the shit out of you. Why do they think so differently than you? And how to get them to think more like you, more like an owner. Are you so frustrated with your employees that you feel like you're running a child daycare center that's disguised as a detail shop or a mechanic shop or a tire shop, etc.? I'm going to explain why your employees think that way and what you can do about it.
If you run your own automotive business and you don't feel like you're taking home as much money as you should be, or you're working ridiculous hours, this is the podcast for you. This is the Automotive Profits Academy podcast, where you learn the simplest ways to get the most out of your automotive business without working harder or longer. Here's your host, Jason Barker.
Hi, and welcome in. Thanks for listening. I appreciate it. If I say something that you like and you think is valuable, I'd sure like an Apple review. Leave me an Apple review of this podcast. And not just the stars, but an actual typed out review. That really helps me out, helps me get the word out. So who am I? I am Jason Barker. I made my dream come true by becoming an automotive blue-collar millionaire. How'd I do it? I just run my own automotive business. I still operate that business very profitably, but it took me over 25 years to achieve this level of success. However, I can help you reach that level much faster from all my experience and the millions of mistakes I made along the way. And since I love to teach, get this, my dream automotive business now is helping you achieve your dream automotive business. So if you're the owner of an automotive business, I sell online courses to help you solve the most common problems that we owners face. Go to automotiveprofitsacademy.com and see which courses you need to solve your most pressing problems. There's also free PDF downloads there so you can get more information and see what you think about the business. You'll want to listen to the end of this podcast for my Thought of the Day segment and my encouragement segment. Those seem to be really popular, so I put them at the end so you have to listen to me. Today's shout out is to Angela Gilham. She runs Age of Detail. It's in Tacoma, Washington State, USA. She does boat detailing and paint protection film on boats. Angela is a hardworking, humble person who's come a very long way on her life's journey to where she is today. I am super proud to know you, Angela. You are a beacon, not just in the boat detailing community, but in life in general. And more importantly, you're just a great person. So, way to go, Angela. I'm proud of you. You're somebody we all can look up to. Keep up the good work. Okay, now let's get to it. We're going to talk about why your employees think so differently than you do and what you can do about it. I'm going to hit you with 3 points. Okay? This episode has a free PDF download that covers all these topics. You can go get that for free at the website. Just go to automotiveprofitsacademy.com and go to the podcasts page. This is episode 6. You'll find the episodes listed right there. Just click on it, download it. Easy peasy. And actually, this episode is somewhat of an excerpt from my online course, the one that's titled How to Hire Great Automotive Employees. That can also be found at automotiveprofitsacademy.com. So this is just kind of a snippet of that. If you want more detail, or I say stuff that you're like, wow, I need to learn more. I need to get what Jason has in his automotive business. You may check out that course. Okay? So dealing with employees is by far the most difficult aspect of business ownership. Am I right? Can I get an amen? That is the biggest thing. Most of us did not start our businesses to babysit people. We didn't wake up one day and said, I love to lead people. I love to babysit them. I love to be responsible for them. What career can I get in to do that? I know I'm going to start an automotive business. and then hire a bunch of blue collar workers, right? That's not how it started. At least it didn't for me. Most of us are really good at our technical aspect of our jobs, maybe the working on the vehicles, all that kind of stuff. But if we fall short anywhere, it's in leading our people and how to deal with these employees. It can be maddening, isn't it? They come in early. I'm going to go through all kinds of things that madden me about employees before I got my system going. And these are things I also commonly hear. See if any of these strike a chord with you. Do employees ever come in late? Do they ever leave early? Especially if the sun's out, or it's a Friday, or it's a Monday, or any other day of the week. That's when they call in sick, or they don't show up at all, or they leave early, long lunches, you name it. What about with your employees don't get along with each other? You got an environment that they backstab each other, they gossip about each other. I hate that. Now, here's the deal with gossip and that sort of stuff, is you need to lead by example. Don't you dare be talking about your other employees with your other employees behind their back and complaining about them. You are the leader. You're at the top of the chain here. You do not complain about anybody in your company to anybody in your company. You find another outlet. You come complain to me. You come complain to other business owners. You do not complain downhill, because A, that's bad leadership, and B, it's just setting the example. Okay? So leading by example, also with coming in late, leaving early, things like that. If your employees have expectations of what you should do and when you should be there, and you're strolling in 10 minutes late, but you still had time to stop for Starbucks, you're setting a bad example. So whatever that is, lead by example. Your employees work slow. You know, they work at a pace that you're just like, you watch them and you go, "What? Just move your hands faster. Just move your hands fast." Who can move that slow? Sometimes employees, it reminds me of a story my dad told about an employee he used to work with, a coworker actually, when he was younger. They were working, and finally at the end of the day, his friend, this coworker, stops and turns around, and he stomps on this snail that was behind him, just crushes him. And my dad goes, "Well, what'd you do that for? What'd you stomp on that snail for?" And the guy says, "Well, he's been following me around all damn day." Your employees work that fast? Next. What about motivation? Are your employees unmotivated? You know, they come into work just dragging. It's like they have no life. Excuse me. It's like they have no desire. They have no fire. They just show up for the paycheck just to put in their time and get out of there so that they get their paycheck. Is that a problem? How about poor decision making of your employees? It seems like their priorities are all messed up. You know what I mean? Like just poor decision making. Like, for example, you'll see an employee, you expect them to be doing a certain job, and you go out in the shop and they're doing something completely different. Like, let's say you see an employee cleaning the shop, like they're sweeping the floor. On the surface of it, you go, "Great, man, look at this guy." The problem is they should be working on a car that has a deadline that has to be done in an hour. And the customer is going to be showing up to pick it up. And they're not working on the car. They're doing something else. They're fixing a tool that has nothing to do with that. They're filling bottles, shop supply. They're doing anything but working on that car. And so you go, what the heck? Their priorities messed up. Your employees ever be like that? How about this one? You have been so frustrated that you pound it into your employees' heads about this is what you should be doing, this is what you should be doing, and you've taken away all their decision-making ability because you think their decision-making ability is so poor. You've just said no. Basically, you want them to be a robot. You do exactly what I tell you, and that's it. Let me give you an example of that. Going bad. Okay. I had an employee, this is like 20 years ago, before I had any of my systems in place, had this employee that kept interrupting. I would be talking to the shop manager about whatever, important stuff. We're laying out the work for the day. We're talking about a customer. We're doing this and that. And this one employee would come up and interrupt us, and it wasn't important stuff. It usually wasn't even shop related. They would just barge in and go, yeah, so last weekend I did this and that. And you go, what? So after a while, I had to shut him down and just say, look, don't interrupt us. When we're talking business and it's me and the manager, do not interrupt us. Okay? That was about a week goes by. Me and the manager were standing outside the shop talking business. This employee comes up, stands next to us, and is like politely just listening to what we're saying, not interrupting. He's got his hands behind his back. He's crossed. He's just kind of rocking back on his heels, waiting. And in my head, I'm thinking, well, good for him. He's respectfully waiting. And so the manager and I, we don't ignore him, but we continue our conversation until we're done. And then I go, okay, yay, thanks for waiting. What's going on? And he says, you know that Porsche I'm working on right now? Yeah. There's smoke coming out from underneath the seat on it, and I don't know why. Literally, that's what he said. I go, me and the manager look at each other like, you mean right now? There's smoke coming out of a car right now? Yes, there is. Well, shit. So, of course, in a panic, we all fly into the shop and address the issue of smoke boiling out of this car that we're working on. Why didn't he interrupt us to tell us that smoke was coming out of a car, for Christ's sake? He didn't, because I told him to not interrupt me. And that's what I told him, and that's what he did. So now he can't get in trouble, can he? I can't fire him because he did not interrupt me. I didn't give my employees the freedom and empower them to make their own decisions and determine if smoke boiling out of a car is somewhat important and you might want to interrupt the boss if you don't know what to do. Okay? So that was my fault, by the way. I'm not blaming that employee. I'm blaming me because I didn't have these systems in place. Your employees also may be inexperienced, and a lot of them are young. In blue-collar fields, they start at the bottom usually. And so when they're young, they make silly mistakes, right? I mean, we all do. We all do that kind of stuff. Those mistakes can be really costly. So, you need to be mindful of that, of why they're thinking differently than you. Maybe they're quite a bit younger and inexperienced. You're just taking it for granted. Okay? And then the last little point about this complaining and listing the faults that a lot of employees have is that they'll cut their own throat sometimes. And it's disappointing. I am an optimist. I always try to see the best in people. I see their potential when I hire an employee. And 99% of the time, in years past, I ended up being disappointed because nobody lives up to their potential. Even when that potential didn't seem that great, they would still just devalue themselves and cut their own throat. I've had employees quit their job with me and their excuse was something outside of work. The problems with their spouse or their kids or, some other factor that was just causing them so much stress. And so they'd quit their job. And I would say, this is the most stable thing in your life. It's a positive work environment. It's good pay, low pressure, Monday through Friday, 40 hours a week. That's it. And you're going to quit this and you think that's going to help you with your money problems, your time at home with your spouse, these other things, but you can't really control that. So anyway, why do employees act this way? Now, of course, I'm generalizing, right? Okay. This isn't every single employee, of course. So don't be coming back at me with that. I hate that. I am generalizing and you know it, okay? Why do employees think this way and why do they act this way? Well, first, you need to realize that you're dealing with a huge slice of humanity, okay? And not everyone is the same. Like I said, this is generalizing. But there are trends and generalizations that we can make that can help us understand. Okay, so comparing employee mindset to your mindset, employees versus owners. I'll put it a couple different ways. First off, think of it as the difference between renting a house or an apartment or owning your own home. I'm sure we've all rented a house at one time, and now most of us own our homes, so you can kind of envision here. You treat that house any different when you're renting it versus you own it? Or a car, let's just say car. You rent a car versus you own your car. You treat them any different? That's kind of like the employee mindset versus the owner mindset. The owner owns the car and takes care of it better, thinks longer term, sees it as an investment, maintains it. When an employee's mindset is like renting a car. You're not quite as vested in it, are you? Sure, you may not want to wreck it. You don't want to hurt it to the point you hurt yourself or others. And you may not purposefully damage it, unless you buy the other insurance, right? But you get my drift here, okay? So that's the first little point of trying to understand employee mindset versus owner mindset. Okay, owners, we think further out. We plan further out. There's a reason we're an owner now instead of an employee. And that's because we're thinking further out. Generally, employees have a shorter time frame in their mind. They're living, most of them, they live paycheck to paycheck, don't they? So there's a 2-week time frame. You as a business owner, you think year to year or even decade, right? Because your business is your retirement. Your business is your career. So you're thinking way out there. So that's another thing. Employees generally don't have the outlook, far outlook as we owners do. We owners also think of our employees and the company as family, kind of like a family. And what I mean by that is a family environment where you're the parent and the employees are the children. You can see the big picture that it helps us all if all the kids get along, doesn't it? It helps us all. If there's bickering between employees, it's like fighting amongst kids. That doesn't help the end goal here. And the end goal is a profitable business with an enjoyable work environment. Employees don't see it that way. Why? Because they're one of the kids. They're down at the bottom with one of the kids. And so just like kids, siblings, they bicker and fight with each other. And they don't care. They undermine each other. They make gossip. They backstab. They don't support each other. And so it's just like kids at home. They don't see the big picture. You as a parent may see your siblings fighting, and you can look at them and go, this person's going to be your sister the rest of their life. You want this woman supporting you. You want your sister loving you. Why are you picking on her, making her cry? You say that because you're the owner. You're the boss. You're the parent. The employees are down there below, okay? So understand that there's a difference there of why they're thinking that way. Now, if you start hiring the right kind of people, which is what this episode's about, is you can start understanding that and moving your company in the right direction. Okay? You hire people they're still going to be your kids, but maybe they're more like partners or adult children that are responsible. Okay? More like roommates versus little kids. In other words, people that are maybe still under you, but they can still get the big picture because they're older, more responsible, more experienced. You can start doing that the more you understand how employees think differently. Now, your company culture, if it's negative, if you're having problems, if it's not as good as you want, it can be difficult to change because it's already established. You've already let the employees get away with whatever it is that you don't like. Okay? So changing that can be difficult. But you still need to do it. You still need to, if you've had enough or you know that there has to be a better way, then you have to change that culture. But just know that can be tough. It's not a flip of a switch. You've shown poor leadership up to this point, right? If there's a problem in your company like that and it's a bad culture, it's on you. You're the leader. You can't blame the employees, even though they're the ones behaving that way. You take ownership for that, okay? So by you just being enlightened and saying, hey, I'm going to change things. I want things to be positive. Don't expect these changes that I'm about to go through to just flip a switch and everything be hunky-dory a week later. Okay, it can be difficult. So along that line, don't let your longtime employees undermine you. If you've had people working for you for a very long time, and now all of a sudden you're going to change, sometimes those employees have been with you a long time. They're entrenched. It's ingrained in them, the culture that you've created. Okay? Don't let them undermine you on that. You might have to let some people go. You might have to let what you consider good employees go when you're trying to change your company environment, when you're trying to change the culture. Again, this is your fault, okay? But that still doesn't mean that you can't let them go if they're not going to see the light and they're not going to do this, okay? That little component I have personal experience with. I had a manager for 22 years at Fresh Start Detail, my automotive business. And when I started getting more and more frustrated with trying to move the company in a more positive direction, and he just wasn't seeing it. And so we butt heads there. I'll talk more about that little instance a little bit later on. Okay? So this all starts with the example you set, like I mentioned earlier. To start the 3 points that I'm going to be hitting on here, it all starts with the example you set. So the example you set in your business about how are you talking behind employees' backs, or instead are you lifting everybody up? Are you showing up late when the employees expect you to be there on time? Or anything else? Are you using the company's resources for your own personal gain? Now, as an owner, that's your right. In other words, if you're using a company car to drive home, drive back and forth from home, that's your right. That's fine. No one cares. But if that's a bad example in front of your employees because they're not supposed to do that, well, then address that. Make sure that the example you're setting is the best for your employees. The next one is that the first one is the example you set. The next one, it's hard to make this segue, but it's also whatever you have tolerated or will tolerate in your management style. In other words, employees will always push and see what you will tolerate, see what they can get away with. And if you tolerate something, even once, you can guarantee you're going to get serious pushback if you try to not tolerate it the second time. You let somebody get away with something once and then correct it later, that's tough. So it's kind of like ruling with an iron fist, but it's not. It's just knowing what you will tolerate. And that's what employees do. They're just like kids that push their parents. They push them. You give in once. Now, good luck trying to correct that behavior because they're going to say, well, you let me do it last time. We've always done it that way in the past. You let so-and-so do it that way. So the number one point I want to make is you must be consistent. That's lesson number 1 here. You must be consistent. If you can't enforce a rule or a behavior all the time, if it's impossible, then don't set the rule. Don't make rules you can't enforce. But be consistent. As their leader, you must be consistent. That's lesson number 1. Next, let's understand that your company is your baby. Again, we're talking about why employees think differently than you as an owner. Your company is your baby. It's your whole life. It's not your employee's whole life, is it? It's just a job to them. Yes, it may be a career. Yes, they may like you personally. Maybe they're a friend. Maybe they're a family member. But it's not their baby. It's your baby. So you cannot expect your employees, no matter what they say or what you want or how much you pay them, you cannot expect them to be as committed to the company as you are. I mean, unless they're like a 50-50 partner, which means they're not an employee anyway, are they? They're just not going to be as committed as you. And this isn't a good thing or a bad thing. It's just the way it is. And now that I've said that out loud to you, you slap your forehead and you go, well, duh, Jason, that's obvious. Well, it ain't obvious because you want your employees to be as committed to you are. And you get upset when they're not, but it's because you're not realizing this isn't their baby. It's a job and a career to them. It's not they're just renting that car. They don't own it. Okay? So the more you understand this and keep this front of mind, the more you can act accordingly going forward. And the better you can manage with this in your mind. This does not mean you have to accept their poor behavior. No. Okay? So this is lesson number 2. Remembering this is not their baby. They're just renting this house. They're just renting this car. They don't own it like you do. Okay? Third one. Your employees, they're not being paid as much as you. And so they don't care as much as you. They're not being paid to care as much as you do about this business. Think about this. If you paid them the exact same pay that you bring home, you think that would adjust their attitude a little bit? Yes, it would, of course. But they'd still be an employee with no ownership. So although raising pay is a step in the right direction, it's not a cure-all. Okay? They still don't have ownership. But if we look at this conversely, if you suddenly got paid whatever you pay your employees, whichever employees perform the worst, and you suddenly dropped your pay to them, do you think you'd lose a little motivation? You think you'd slow your pace of work? Maybe not be quite as committed? Maybe not work as many hours? Do you think you'd go down? Yes, of course you would. So understand and remember that the only reason your employees are there is for the paycheck. No one works for free. We can sugarcoat it and say, no, I'm doing what I love. They say they like to detail. They like to do this. They like to turn wrenches. They love cars. But let's not sugarcoat it. No one works for free. And no one busts their ass and goes the extra mile just for the benefit of someone else, like you. No one's going to bust their ass just to put more food on your table, just to give you more profits. Okay? An example of this, of how no one works for free, no matter how glory, and we try to sugarcoat this whole big picture of if you do what you love, you never work another day in your life, all that kind of stuff. There's elements of that are true, but a lot of that's just bullshit to make people feel good about working in jobs or not earning enough money. Okay? But to drive this point home, how many of you lost employees during the pandemic because your employees, they were getting paid to stay home? That happen to anybody, or is that just me? That whole government paying people to stay home, that whole thing is a huge, what we call a proof of concept that we business owners have known for literally thousands of years. And that is, people do not work unless they have to. If given the opportunity to either work and collect a paycheck or stay at home and collect a paycheck, the employee mindset is that they will stay at home and collect a paycheck. On the surface, it sounds obvious. Well, yeah, why would I go to work if I can get the same money and stay home? I'll tell you why. Because us owners wouldn't have done that. Sure, we may take a break and get a little free money, but we're going to go find something to do. We're going to build another business. We're going to find another way because we have that owner's mindset. The employee mindset, not like that. They would still be at home collecting that money if it was still there. Okay? So that's the proof of concept that showed everybody in the world, I should say in America, because I don't know how other countries did it, but that if you give people free money and pay them to stay home, they will. They'd rather not work. That's the employee mindset. I'm not making a super big judgment on that. I have my opinions. You can probably tell by the tone of my voice, but it doesn't matter. That's just human nature. So we as owners, if we understand that about the employee mindset and keep it front of mind, we can make the best decisions going forward and still capitalize on that. Okay? So you still need to make an environment in your business and systems that takes all of that into account instead of beating your head against the wall and getting madder and madder about the situation, about why people act this way. Just accept that this is a fundamental fact about human nature and then look for ways to still capitalize on it. That's what we owners do. Okay? So, in other words, trying to find ways to capitalize on it. What if you started giving bonuses to your employees that were based on how profitable your company is? Bonuses based on how profitable your company is. In other words, a profit-sharing based bonus system. Do you think that could help your employees to start thinking more like you do? Bonuses based on company profits is the best way to get your employees thinking more like an owner. This gets them thinking more like you do. But also understand it's hard to change old ways of thinking. If there's never been a bonus system, anything like this in your company, then to change the way companies get paid and to get the employees to buy in can be very difficult because it's something different, something new, something unheard of. Now, if you hire an employees and you start off this way, like this is part of your pay, is a bonus system and it's based on company profits. Well, then the new employees buy right in because that's how you set it up. But if your old employees aren't buying in and they won't buy in, then you might have to make a change there. It might be time to let them go. And again, this isn't their fault. It's not their fault for not buying in. It's your fault for creating that old system that led them to have the mindset and to keep that mindset of just punching a clock or just doing a job for wages instead of working hard and looking out for company profits. You designed that system, so it's your fault. So we're not blaming the employees for not being able to change their frame of mind. But regardless, it's better to just admit your mistake, let that employee go, and move on and replace them with someone that is going to buy in and be more profitable. It'll be better for both of you. What you're doing is you're changing to a system that rewards your employees who want to participate in this system. I'm going to say that again. Come back to me if you're double tasking here. You're changing to a system that rewards your employees who want to participate. If they don't want to participate, they drag their feet and they're dragging company profits down, it's time to let them go. So either they change to your new system, your new way, or you replace them with someone that does. And the new employees, it's much easier to get them to buy in than your old ones. Okay? So this system, it attracts those candidates who want to participate because you've put it in your ad, your help wanted ad. You've put it right in there. So letting an employee go who isn't buying in, it just makes room for a more profitable employee to take their place. So back to that employee I told you about that I had for 22 years. And he quit because he refused to buy in. And it was a sad situation because he could have made so much more money. And it could have been making more money doing the same work he already done for 22 years. There was no change. It was just buying into the company profits change. And it was so bad that after he quit, within 6 months, the replacement that I hired was earning $5 an hour more, okay, and was getting between $1,000 and $3,000 bonuses every quarter. That's what the new guy got within 6 months versus the old guy who was with me for 22 years doing the exact same job because he bought in and made it work. Okay? So this is lesson number 3. Remember that your employees are not getting paid enough to care as much as you do. And to increase their commitment to you, you need to increase their pay in the form of a profit-based bonus program. Do a profit-sharing based program for bonuses. That's how you get them to buy in. So those are the 3 lessons. If you found value in any of those lessons, I'd appreciate a review on Apple Podcasts, please. And the star ratings are good, but if you can figure out how to leave me an actual review, it's kind of clunky. But I sure appreciate it because it helps me spread the word and to help other automotive business owners. So this is just the tip of the iceberg. This episode, just the tip of the iceberg on how to find and hire the best employees. Don't forget to download the free PDF that goes with this podcast. It has some additional notes in here that I didn't talk about. And also check out the online courses that I have on a lot of different topics. Most applicably, that's not a word, most applicable is how to hire the best automotive employees. Check out that course. Okay, so now your thought for the day. I love this segment. This one's about wasting your time. Time is the most valuable thing in the world, isn't it? You already know that. You're probably rolling your eyes that someone felt the need to just say that to you in a podcast. Everybody says it. Everybody talks about time. Don't waste my time. Don't waste my time. I don't have time. I don't have time to do this. I'd love to do it, but I don't have time. Man, where did the time go? When can I find time to do this? When would I have time to do that? Yes, I'll do it. I'll do it when I have time. I'll do it when I find the time. Those are all things we say and hear frequently. So you protect your money and you protect your property from anybody who dares to encroach on you, don't you? Your money, your property, your toys, all of this. You protect that like a vault, like a medieval castle. You protect your money, your cash, your doodads, your toys. You put alarms on your cars and alarms on your house. We got locks for everything. All our doors are locked, padlocked. You lock your bike up, you lock this, you lock that. Passwords. You have passwords for everything. We do 2-factor authentication. What a pain in the ass, right? All of that to protect our stuff, our money, our assets, our things. Some people even have guns, deadly weapons to protect their property. But the number of people who steal your time, whether they know it or not, those people, they're innumerable. There's a million of them. There are people who are ready to consume your time for no benefit of themselves or for any reason. And here's the deal. You let them. You let them take your time. Here's some examples. Here's some examples of how you let people take your time or you give it away and waste it. How about your emails, your email inbox? Are you a professional email checker? You think how much time you waste checking emails? What a frickin' waste. Hey, try unsubscribing to that email chain that you've gotten 47 emails and you've never looked at them. You just take time, they just clog up your inbox. It takes time to delete them, takes time to move them around, they clog it up. Stop wasting your time in your emails. What about your long commute? You live so far from work to save $50 on your rent, but yet you'll waste all that time every single day, both directions. You waste it, you give it away. How about at work? And you allow non-customers or cheap-ass customers to just sit there and chat with you and waste your time, like retired people. Okay, I'm not retired, and I'll be there someday, I'm sure. But you know the profile I'm going to spew to you right here, and that is the retired people that have nothing else going on in their life. And so the best way for them to find somebody to talk to is to go into a business and start chatting with somebody whose job it is to sit there and talk with people. And so they talk. We're in the car business. So you get some guy that talks about cars, and now he can't wait to tell you how it's like Grandpa Simpson. Back in 52, he had a 49 Ford, and that thing was great. Now, the paint was okay, But, well, the one fender was bad because that got crashed and it got repainted. And they did a 2-stage on that, while the rest of the car was a single stage. But anyway, the flat tire he got in the back, that blew up and started rubbing on the paint. And then, okay, you'll sit there and listen to that, even though you know the customer's not spending any money with you or has nothing to do with the job they're dropping off, the car they're dropping, nothing to do with nothing, but you stand there and smile and chat because you don't want to be rude, and you let them steal your time. And they steal your time not even to benefit themselves. That guy talking to you, it's not even benefiting him. Now, maybe socially it is. He needs somebody to talk to. That's his problem, not yours. So you let people that waste your time. Back in 49 AD, there's a Roman philosopher named Seneca. I'm sure you've heard of him. He wrote, quote, "No one hands out their money to passers-by. But to how many people do we hand out our time? We're tight-fisted with our money and property, yet we think nothing of wasting our time." That's so true. And that was 2,000 years ago. Okay, so 1,800 years later, after he said that, a guy named Booker T. Washington, who was an African-American slave that was freed after Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation, and he later became an advisor to American presidents. He wrote, "The number of people who stand ready to consume your time for no purpose is almost countless." And it's so true. Don't let people waste your time, and don't you waste either. You protect your time more than you protect your property and your money. Okay. Your encouragement for the episode, and then we're done. You know, I believe in you. I know you can do this business ownership thing. You took the leap to owning your own business, and it's going to pay off. You just got to keep making the small incremental tweaks as you go to keep making progress towards your goals. And here's how you keep your mind on track and how to keep it working towards achieving your goals. And that is visualization. But here's a trick about visualizing. Visualize yourself succeeding. Not having success. I mean just the process of succeeding. Visualize what a successful person does to achieve their goals. What do they do? Whatever your goals are and whoever you want to emulate, what have they done to get where they're at? Do not visualize having what they have. Visualize what they did to get to where they're at now. Don't visualize what you want. Don't visualize yourself having what you want. Whether that's, what do you want? $1 million in the bank? You want 7 Ferraris in the driveway? You want 3 houses? Or whatever you want. It's cool to dream about that, but do not visualize yourself having it. Visualize what it's going to take to get there. The reason is because visualizing having it and feeling those feelings of what it's like to have 7 Ferraris parked in the driveway, that tricks your mind a little bit. Your mind feels the good feeling, and so it thinks it's accomplished it. And so it doesn't motivate you. It doesn't find ways to get that. Okay, and that's a common mistake that people make when it comes to visualization. And it's taught wrong all the time by so-called experts. You're not envisioning what it's like to have something great so that you feel it. Because if you do that, then your brain has felt it. It's enjoyed the satisfaction. You didn't. You don't have the $1 million in the bank, but your brain just got the good feeling of it. Okay? Visualize what it takes to get there. What does it take to get $1 million in the bank debt-free? That's what you want to visualize doing. And you're going to do this because this is what successful automotive business owners do. This is what successful automotive business owners do. Successful owners just like you. Just like you are, you just got to prove it to the world. Thank you again for listening to me. I appreciate your reviews. Any comments? I'm always open to talking. Just email me, jason@automotiveprofitsacademy.com. Thank you very much. I'll talk to you soon.